Good morning. I'm finally feeling better, y'all. So I still kind of sound like I got a little post-nasal drip in me, which I do, but I'm not having these coughing attacks like I was last week. So luckily, last time that y'all saw me, I was in Boston. I had the opportunity to speak at the Boston Harvard Club and MIT to the alumni that was there, and no coughing attacks during my talk. So that was amazing. That's an A+ in Hannah's world. But we're finally back on the up and up. I've been drinking a lot of my liquids, drinking a lot of my greens, and just eating very healthy. So as you can see, I'm in another hotel room. I'm coming to you live from Gary, Indiana. So it's about an hour east outside of Chicago. But tomorrow I'm going to be speaking to a group of real estate investors about how to become their own bankers, getting out of the central banks, not having to do business with the banks, and then really how to double dip on their money using their policies. So today, before we get into it, I just want to recap what we talked about last week. We really discussed invisible income. And I know invisible income is kind of a weird topic to a lot of people who are in that traditional mindset of thinking, well, I'm putting money into like this 401k, this IRA, putting money away for the future so that I can live off of this money now. And, invisible income really means how can I create a tax-free income stream that's out of the eyes of the government, out of the eyes of if I'm trying to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, and really protecting your vault of where you're keeping that hard-earned money at. So go check out last week's episode. It is posted up on my YouTube channel, Hannah Kesler, and you can see all of the live streams, the recorded ones there. But today, I kind of want to get into a comment that I hear a lot. And actually, literally, this question just came up to me yesterday, too, when I was on a strategy call with somebody. But, a question that was asked is, candidly, I do not understand how you make money paying back your policy loan. So I want to dive deep into what it really means to pay yourself back into the policy, being an honest banker with yourself. But before I get into it, I do want to answer a question that was left to me on last week's episode where they asked me, hey, could you talk about how you operate your foundation to make investments? So let's just touch on that quick topic here because I want to hit that question and then we'll get into today's episode. But what I do right now and how I donate to the various 501c3s that I'm passionate about is I have a foundation. My entity is set up in place. And what I do is I take 10% of my net income. So every month when I look over my financials, which FYI, y'all, it is the first week of September. Have you taken a look at your money situation of what happened last month? What I do is I block out the first Wednesday of every month from 9 to 12, and I look over my cash flow, what I have going on that previous month. So then I'm up to date, and then I know what I need to change going into the next month. So what I do is that when I'm looking over my cash flow, I'm taking the net 10% that I'm keeping, and that money flows down, and I allocate those dollars to my foundation. And then what I did is when I started to accumulate lots of money in there, I took that money and I actually invested it out into a private lending deal. So and I'll just be real with y'all. So what I did is I took 75,000 of it. I put it into a private lending deal that's paying me 12%. And then every month when I'm collecting those interest checks back, those interest checks go directly back to my foundation. And then at the end of the year, that's where I will donate that money that I accumulated in there. Because to me, without having this purpose of really what I want to use my foundation for quite yet. It's like setting up my own responsibilities within the foundation. Because right now it's almost like I'm a silent partner with these people, right? Because I'm going out there, I'm producing and accumulating dollars, and then I'm taking that money and donating it to the 501c3s. And I was actually having this thought with myself too. Okay, so here's another big PSA. I know sometimes it can get like you're caught up in wanting to kind of compare yourself to your peers, maybe your family members, or even people that you're taking financial advice from. And you're like, oh my gosh, why am I not there? I wish I was in their situation. But y'all, it takes time to build up wealth. Wealth is built. This is not a get rich quick kind of deal, and wealth is really built. And I actually found myself having kind of those same conversations with myself, that I was like, why am I not to this place that I wish I was at right now? And I just had to kind of bring myself back down to earth. And it's like, girl, you're only 26 years old. Freaking chill, okay? You're doing fine. It just is going to take some time. It takes some time to get to those specific goals that you want to accomplish. But as long as you're making those steps, like, have you created the steps to get there in this week, in this specific day? Have you made a little nudge or a little step to get you to where you want to go? That's all you can really ask for yourself, right? Are you doing the best that you can? Is what my mama always says. And if the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. If you're leading with your heart and you're doing your best of your ability, then you're on the right path to doing so. So I had to bring myself back down to earth, as well as I'm, learning a lot of expensive lessons, right? There's no mistakes. There's just expensive lessons, in my opinion. So anywho's, that's how I really do it within my foundation. So I got some ideas of what I want to do within my life with my foundation, the Speaking Life Foundation that I do have. But it's just the time, because the conversation I had with myself is, I'm like, well, Hannah, you're in a big building business of your phase right now within your life. So just give yourself some grace, and, you're going to get there. You'll be good. So, all right, wanted to answer that question. So let's get into what I want to talk about today and unpack what it means to pay yourself back. Because, right, when you borrow from a traditional bank, you have to pay them back, right? They're not going to give you this loan and expect you not to make those monthly payments. And it's not just the loan that you're paying back to that banker or that lender, you have to pay them the interest too. And that's how banks make these billions of buku bucks. So here's the shift. When you borrow from your own policy, you step into the banker's role. And if you skip paying yourself back, you're cheating the banker. And who is the banker? It's you. You're just only going to be cheating yourself and your future self. So here's how it really works in layman terms, for lack of better words. Okay, so let's say that I'm going to go to my policy and I'm going to take out some money and I want to go buy myself a car. Okay, the only reason I just like to use cars is because we all just understand cars. Everybody's either bought in a car, we've either ridden in a car or driven a car. Okay, so we all just understand cars. So if I were to go out and let's say that I'm going to take out a policy loan of $50,000 to go buy myself this new automobile. Well, let's talk about the reasons as to why real quick that we borrow from the policy and not just pay cash or bank finance it. Because number one, if you pay cash for your transactions, aka just withdrawing the money from your regular checking or savings account at the bank, okay, you've accomplished the goal of purchasing the car, but you no longer have that $50,000 because right, that $50,000 was inside of your pocket down at the local bank earning you interest, some form of interest. I know it's not a lot, and at the bank they actually tax you on the pennies that you earn, right? But you're earning some form of interest. And when you go and just pay cash for transactions, the money is gone. So you have to go out there and work for it or earn it somehow to get it back inside of your pocket, earning you interest again. On the flip side, if I bank finance it, okay, yeah, the banker is the one that gave me the loan. And so now I'm paying out the interest to them. So they're collecting all of my principal and interest payments. So I'm kind of back to zero once I pay that car off, right? Or my favorite way is through the policy, because why I'm using the policy is when my money starts to filter through my whole life policies designed for high immediate cash value. Now starts the time clock of the uninterrupted compounding that happens on that money for the rest of my life, and I can still leverage against the policy, take out the 50 grand to go buy myself that car. Now, here's how it works. Because, Hannah, well, how am I still earning interest even though I'm tapping into my cash value and I'm taking money out from it? That doesn't make sense to me. Because we are not withdrawing the cash value out of the policy. You can withdraw cash value. Go back to last week's episode. We talked about withdrawing the cash out of our policies, but I wouldn't do that in the early years, because if I just withdraw the cash value out of my policy, number one, I'm interrupting the compounding that's happening on that money. And then number two, I am surrendering part of that death benefit, right? So what we're doing is we're taking out a policy loan. So what that means is I'm putting my policy up for collateral. My cash value and my death benefit go up for collateral, and I'm taking a loan from the general funds of the insurance company. So in the real world, I'm using their 50,000, which then allows my 50,000 to remain in the policy to grow and compound as if it wasn't even touched. Okay, so that's how we're able to earn the uninterrupted compounding while we're still using the money, because technically we're using the insurance company's money. So when I borrow from the insurance company is charging me a 5% simple annual interest. So now, I say 5%, it's depending on the insurance company, okay? So I'm just taking all of my companies all together and I'm just lump summing them all together. But depending on that insurance company, it could be anywhere right now from 5 to 8% is your loan interest rate. Contractually, this thing is pretty powerful. I should probably talk about this more, but contractually in your policy contracts, it states that loan interest rate can be anywhere from 0 to 8%. So that's contractually what they can change the loan interest rate to. And loan interest rate is really set just by the insurance company, right? They are their own private entities. They can determine what they want to set their loan interest rates for themselves as. But anywho, so I'm just going to take a 5% annual interest, and that's what we're going to do our calculation on. So if I take out this 50 grand and I'm going to go pay cash for this car using my policy loan, I've taken it out. I've now bought in the car. Okay, transaction's done. But now, because I borrowed from myself, don't you think it's a good idea that we should pay ourselves back and charge ourselves interest? Yes, Hannah, that sounds like a great idea, but do we ever really do it? No. Let me tell you something. I have this actually posted up on a sticky note right here. I am a sticky notes queen, let me tell you, and I need to find a different way of how to do this. Right here is my sticky note, okay? Because this is something I want to talk about on an upcoming Money Multiplier podcast episode. But, y'all, sometimes I've noticed this. You guys will start your infinite banking journey and you will do all of this learning and you will really grasp and be a sponge and understand, yes, Hannah, yes, I do need to pay myself back. I do need to play honest banker with myself. But then you start your policy and it's like all of that information went out the window. You know, you guys just want to steal from your banking system. You have no plan to pay it back. And it's like you almost hit the arrival syndrome. And it's like, guys, you need to stay on top of this. You need to keep absorbing the information that's happening. So, which brings me into my next real quick point. I'll be right back. Hey, Money Multipliers, just real quick. I know times are crazy right now. We're in very uncertain times, and that's why we need to come together and thrive as a community. So coming up, Denver, Colorado, October 9, 10, and 11, the Money Multiplier team, we're going to be out there hosting a live mastermind for you. My folks who have policies, want to build and strategize on the empire that you have. And for my dreamers who you haven't started your infinite banking journey yet, but you want to connect and be with the like-minded people so you know you're on that correct and right direction. So I want to see you down there. So myself, my dad, Brent Kesler, Chris Noggle, we're all going to be together in the one location. So Check the link out down below for more information, or you can visit themoneymultiplier.com/mastermind 2025. I'll see y'all in Denver. All right, and then just FYI too, y'all, there's actually a Labor Day sale going on. So if you secure your ticket by the 6th of September, so only 2 more days left, using the code Labor Day, it'll give you 15% off the ticket. Because, get back into my tangent, you can't stop learning and you can't hit the arrival syndrome. Okay. The arrival syndrome really meaning that you just stop absorbing information. You think that you know everything there is to know on this planet, and you essentially just stop learning. And as Nelson Nash says, you're better off just as dead and just to rot, right? Because that's the most valuable thing that we have is our mind to be able to create, and just think for ourselves. So anywho's, back to my example here real quick. And I see some of your comments coming in. I'll touch on those comments here in a second. But if I'm going to take out this $50,000 loan from my policy, and let's say I'm charged the 5% interest. Well, if I have that money outstanding for the entire year, 5% on 50,000 is 2,500 bucks. So if I pay nothing back to my policy, I'm going to be charged $2,500. And what I want you to always, always, always at least do is pay that annual loan interest and pay it out of pocket every year. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to deduct that loan interest from your cash values. And how they do it is they deduct it as another policy loan. So now you're being charged interest on the interest that you earned the previous year. And we don't want that to happen. But we are honest bankers here, okay? So I'm going to show y'all a tool and a resource that I use of a loan calculator. So when I borrow from my bank and when I'm conducting my banking business here, I actually go to this site called bankrate.com, and I'm typing it in now, bankrate.com, and I type in loan calculator. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Actually, let's do this first. Let me click on it, and then I'll bring it up. Share screen. Here we go. Beautiful. All right, let's get into big mode here. All right, so all I did is I typed in bankrate.com loan calculator into Google, and it's the first one that pops up, the loan calculator. Don't ask me how I try to find it on the Bankrate website. I don't know. I just Google it, and it takes me directly here. Okay. So when I get in here, so this is where I really this is where I calculate how much loan interest that I'm going to charge myself and then what my monthly payment should be back to myself. So in here, I'm typing in my principal of the loan I took out, which is $50,000. Now, here's the fun thing. You are your own banker, so you can, oh, I had to add stage. There we go. Loan calculator. So you are your own banker. Now, you get to determine the terms that you set for this loan, right? Because you're in control of this transaction. You are in debt to yourself. So when I'm having this conversation, okay, so I'm going to take out a $50,000 loan, and I think I want to pay this stuff back in 3 years or 36 months. So let's put in here 3 years is how long I want that loan outstanding for. And then the interest rate. It's already populated at 10% because I use this thing quite often, but that's what I charge myself. Personally, I do 10% on all of my policy loans because the more interest I charge myself, the more money that's just going to go back inside of my pocket anyways. You can do whatever loan interest rate that you want. Hey, do it at no interest rate if you want. That's fine. You're in control. You're just gypping yourself anyways, but okay, that's fine. You can not do it that way, not pay any interest, or you could go with market rates right now. Let's say it's 6, 7, 8%. You could always do that. Me, I just always do 10%. So that's just what I like to do. So when I type in the 10% and I click calculate, it tells me exactly up here my payment It tells me my principal amount, the interest that I paid, and then the total cost. But then down here, it actually shows me my amortized schedule, which is really, really cool. Now, a lot of my business owners, y'all would really like this amortized schedule because here's another fun fact. Let's say I'm using this policy loan money and Hannah Kesler, the person, loans money to Hannah Kesler Agency LLC, and then my LLC pays me back with interest. Those interest payments could be counted as a tax deduction come around tax season, but I'm not a CPA or tax professional, so please go talk to somebody. But that's why I like this here, so then I can also see how much is going towards interest each and every payment as well. But I am going to use this rule and I'm going to pay myself back. Let's just call it $1,600 just for easy round numbers here. So when I'm going to go in and pay myself back that $1,600 a month, that $1,600 that I allocate as loan repayments back to my policy, that's going towards paying down the principal of my loan amount. And thus it's also paying down the loan interest that I'm charged on that loan amount. So at the end of the day, it's just all accounting work. And honestly, I just have the insurance company do that accounting work for me. And then what happens is at the end of my policy year on my anniversary date, I get a letter in the mail about a month before my premium is due again. And it will tell me on there on my policy annual statement, it will tell me my loan outstanding, my dividend I earned that year, and it will also tell me the loan interest that I'm charged. So whatever that loan interest that I'm being charged is, I pay my annual premium, plus I pay my annual loan interest to the insurance company directly. And then I just keep rinse and repeating. Next year, I keep making my $1,600 monthly payments back to my policy, and that's going towards paying down my loan interest. Thus, I'm not being charged as much loan interest moving forward, right? But let's get even more technical. That $1,600 a month, when it goes back inside of your policy, it's going towards replenishing your cash value. So your policy always will be able to hold the principal of the loan amount that you've taken out. So let's add it back to stage. This $50,000 that you've taken out, your policy will always, always, always be able to hold that $50,000. This extra $8,000 in loan interest that I'm paying myself, that goes into our policy as more paid up additions. And that paid up additions premium, the extra that we're adding in, that goes into our entire accumulated cash value bucket. And now we're compounding on that extra PUA premium that we put into this policy. Now let's talk about this. But Hannah, if I do that, aren't you concerned that I could maybe hit my MEC limits if I do this? Ah, the MEC, the wonderful modified endowment contract. Okay, little history lesson real quick before we get into it, just so y'all can understand the why behind the MEC limit. MEC, M-E-C, modified endowment contract. What was funny is actually I just had to do another round of my continuing ed for my life insurance licenses, and the MEC came up in some of my education. So I actually know the exact date now. I knew it was June of '88, but I didn't know the exact date. So get this, June 20th of 1988. Our wonderful government came out with this MEC law, and it's an IRS tax law. And the reason they came out with it is because they noticed a lot of elite and wealthy individuals were dumping in a boatload of money inside of their whole life insurance policies. Because, I mean, think about it. Hey, if I'm a elite individual, I'm making all this money, the government's getting half of my money, I need to protect my wealth, God forbid if I get sued, have a judgment or lien against me. As my father has always said, the farther up your butt is on the flagpole, the bigger the target it becomes. He uses another word, obviously, but I want to protect the money. And I still want to have access to it. I don't want to lock it up into something that won't allow me to have access to these dollars. So a lot of elite families were dumping in a boatload of money inside of whole life insurance. And so Uncle Sam wanted just to make sure that life insurance was being used as a tool for death benefit purposes, but then also for people to not find a tax loophole to go around it, right? So this MEC law, how I want y'all to picture it, it's like an imaginary line inside of your policy. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to overstuff the policy to go over this imaginary MEC line, because if we do, the government now is going to start looking at your policy like it's an investment rather than an insurance contract. And then now they're going to start taxing us on it. And we don't want that. I want to keep all the tax-free growth and the tax-free benefits that come inside of my policy. So there is a MEC limit in everybody's policy, and the MEC limit is different in everybody's policy. It's based on the death benefit. It's based on how the policy's designed, the base and the paid up additions. This is why some of y'all, you'll notice that there's a term rider on your policy. And I'll talk about term here in a second. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we remain underneath those MEC limits, because if I do, then I'm just subject to the tax consequences. Now, as Nelson Nash has always said too, MEC is not the end of the world, right? I mean, you're still able to conduct your banking business through your own private entity, through your own control. But yeah, it just has the negatives that when you take out policy loans and the distributions out of your policy, all of that's going to be taxable to you. So we want to minimize that, obviously, because I want to keep more of the money that I'm making. So that extra $8,000 that I'm paying in as extra PUA premium, that will move me closer to my MEC limits. So here's what I do. At the start of every single year, after I pay my premium, I write into the insurance company and I say, hey, just made my next year's a premium. How much extra PUA premium can I pay inside of my policy without hitting my MEC limits? And then actuary will take it over. They'll go do their calculations of whatever they do over there, right? Being an actuary, nerding out. And then they come back to me with that answer. So I know how much extra that I can contribute to more PUA premium inside of my policies. But wait, before I get there, let's talk about this. This I find very interesting. Your MEC limit is a moving target. And any time that there is a material change, is what the insurance company calls it, the technical terms. Anytime there's a material change, meaning I pay premium into my policy, my health rating on my policy gets updated. That's all I have on the tip of my brain right now. But really, anytime that I pay premium into my policy, no matter if it's base premium or paid up additions, that's going to move my MEC limits higher. So that's why I know where the MEC limit is at year one, month one, but every time that you put premium into your policy, that MEC limit will keep increasing. So that's why we have to ask every year, hey, where are my MEC limits at for this year? So in a perfect world, there's going to be enough wiggle room that I'm going to be able to add an extra $8,000 of PUA premium inside of my policy contract. But this isn't a perfect world. And let's say I can't add that extra $8,000. This is where your segregated checking account comes into play. I have one, okay? I have a separate segregated checking account down at the local bank, just the bank I like to do business with, which is US Bank. That was the first bank account I ever opened at like 15, 16 years old, my student checking account. And I have that US Bank account as my separate segregated checking account. Because what happens is when I get paid my active income, that all goes into my business checking account. And then from that account, I will move money into my separate segregated checking account. And so that monthly payment of the $1,600, I will take $1,600 from my account and then move it to the separate segregated checking account. You can also think about the separate segregated checking account like it's you paying yourself first. I know I talk a lot about that too. Pay yourself first before you go pay any of your other expenses. Take a sliver of your money, almost like you're paying yourself like a salary every month or every time you get paid. Take that money, pay yourself first, move it to that separate account, and then go pay all of your other bills next. So if I ever get to a point where I completely max out my PUA extra premium that I can pay in my policy, and let's say that my policy is all filled up to the top, I can't even pay any more base PUA premium, aka like changing the premium mode status on my policy. Because you can pay premiums monthly, quarterly, twice a year, annually, and you can always change that mode of premium that you're doing. So if I'm sitting here doing a monthly premium and I got some extra cash, a way that you can get in more money into the policy besides extra PUA is changing the mode of the premium. Switch it to quarterly, switch it to every 6 months, switch it to annually. And that's a way you can filter more cash through your policy too. But I will have that separate segregated checking account be in there if I hit the maximums of my MEC limits and I can't put any more money inside of this policy, or it will hit that MEC status, thus causing tax consequences. So at that point, let's say I make it to there. Well, at that point, then that's when I start having the conversation with myself. Well, Hannah, you're keeping more money at the end of the month. And right now, where you're keeping that money stored at is down at this central bank. I think that you are ready and to start an additional policy. Branch office of my bank, policy number 2. So I'm taking that accumulated money from the segregated checking account. If it won't fit into policy number 1, because I completely maxed that out, paid all PUA premiums, my annual premium is paid, all of my loans are paid, policy number 2. And that's when and why I would start it. And that's a common question I get a lot too is, well, Hannah, how do I know when I'm ready to start an additional policy? You'll know when you're ready. Okay. Don't put the cart in front of the horse. Start where you're at now. Start with that one system, that one branch office, aka the one policy that you're starting. And then when you get to those maximums and you still got additional cash just hanging out in your bank account, that's when and why you would start policy number 2. Is that making a little sense? All right, here, before I continue on, let me kind of get into the comments here. Good morning, Mr. Dexter. Good to see you. Yep, Rob. Yep. Because Lafayette Life loan interest rate. I know I addressed that on the beginning. Oh, Spaceship. I love your name. Don't know who you are, but love your name. Spaceship asked me, isn't the interest charged automatically? Mine is. There are some carriers they will pre-charge the loan interest to us. One America being one of those companies. So before they even give you the loan money, they're already pre-charging that loan interest. So again, but the same system happens. Anytime that you pay yourself back inside of that policy, you're going towards paying down the interest that's charged on the loan. And then you'll see that interest credited back to your policy as cash value inside of there. Good, Dex. Okay. And Spaceship also said, I took out $100,000 and put into a hard money lending at 15% and paid 4% to my insurance company out of pocket each month. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Here's how I do it within my lending deals, right? Because honestly, I like to have my lending deals working out there for at least 12 months. That's just me personally. I really won't do a deal that's less than 12 months long because, hey, if you're going to make me go through all these hoops, wire money or do all this, I want 12 months of interest collected for me. But you lending your money at 15% and then paying 4% to the insurance company out of pocket each month, essentially what that's telling me is that you're taking the accumulated money, the monthly interest checks that you are collecting, you are taking some of those dollars and you're paying it back to your policy, paying down the loan interest that you're charged. Beautiful. You're treating yourself as your number one asset and you're paying yourself back into that policy. Me, what I personally do is I will use my passive income stream of the private lending. And sometimes I'm not paying back my policy loans right away. What I do is I make sure that at the end of the year, I have enough to pay the annual loan interest out of pocket. But if I have this money working out there at 15%, the insurance company charges me 5%. Who cares if they charge me 5% because I'm over here making 15%? But I would only recommend this strategy for my disciplined people. So you're not getting yourself into a situation at the end of the year and you're calling up and saying, I don't have this loan interest money. What should I be doing? Right? You need to make sure that you do have that loan interest. But for me, I just have my little green men out there working for me for the entire year. And then when that principal of my money loan gets paid back to me, that's what I'll take and I'll dump it in back inside the policy, paying back my loans, and then also maxing out any PUA premiums that I have. So then when the opportunity, another one presents itself, I'm going to have the money in my policy to go and redeploy the cash again. So yeah, no, Spaceship, you're doing very, very good. Okay, so Rob J says, I think the interest is added in automatically. My loan balances are always some random number with dollars and cents, but my loans are even dollar amount. So I just keep paying the balance down too. Good. And maybe this is what you're seeing. Rob, I don't know if you're on a monthly premium mode. That kind of makes some things change and act a little wonky when you're looking at your online portal with the insurance company. Because if for whatever reason you do not pay your premium for that month, what the insurance company does is they hold back your base premium in cash value, because if you don't pay that premium for that month, what they'll do is they'll use your cash value to then pay your base premium. It's what's called the non-forfeiture option, what's called the automatic premium loan. And that's there because if something were to happen and you don't pay your premium within your grace period, because y'all, okay, you have grace periods on your policy. Let's say your premium is due on January 1st. At some companies, you got a 30-day grace period. Some companies, you got a 60-day grace period. So if you don't pay your premiums by that due date and you're within the grace period, it will hold back some of that cash value, because if it needs to, the contract will exercise that automatic premium loan where it will take cash value out of your policy, pay your required base premium to keep the contract alive and keep it going. So that's where you can see some wonkiness too. Also, oh my gosh, the thought just left me about the loan amount. Interest earned. Let's talk about this. In your policy, you will actually notice that your cash value will increase as the year goes on. Because when I go in there every month and I'm looking at my policy contracts, I'm looking at the cash values, even if I didn't touch that money for that month, I will notice that the cash value slightly increases month after month. And so that's what's kind of telling me is that, hey, the interest that I'm earned, the interest that I earn gets credited to me throughout the course of that year. So I've been kind of noticing that just in my own personal experience with my 8 policies that I have, really tracking this and dialing it down every month. I've noticed that has happened as well. So that could also be something that's playing into it. Need help, but I can't look at my policy and tell how much room. Rob's asking, hey, he can't look at his policy and tell how much room he has before he hits the MEC limit. Rob, reach out to your implementation agent, or you can send me an email as well. Actually, I'm going to give you this email. I have my Hannah Kesler one, but I'm going to give you this one. Okay, so Hannah at themoneymultiplier.com. If you don't know who your implementation agent is, reach out to me and I'll get you in contact with them. And I'll also give you the email addresses to the insurance company themselves, so you can always ask them directly too. What I know is the only one that I can see on my own portal when I'm logging in from that policy owner view is Lafayette Life, where I can see where my MEC limits are at and how much extra I can pay into what they call the LPUA, level paid up additions. So all the other companies, like when I'm trying to log in as like a policy owner view, I can't see that number. So I have to write into an email directly to policy servicing, and then they go and do the calculations and send me back an answer within like 24, 48 business hours. So oh, good job, Dexter. And Dexter says, hey, I usually call the insurance company and ask my implementation person too, just to verify. So yeah, man, you got support over here. So just reach out with whatever questions that you have. We'll help you there. So what is next on my agenda? Okay, so we talked about what it really means to pay yourself back. Let's go back to the question, actually. Let's make sure that we totally hit this. Candidly, I do not understand how you make money paying back your policy loan. Well, how we make money paying back our policy loan is the extra PUA premiums that we're adding into the policy. That's accumulating us more wealth inside of our policy, compounding on more, but then also the uninterrupted compounding, right? You never take it out. You did not withdraw the money from your policy. So you are still earning the uninterrupted guaranteed interest and dividends on all of that cash value, while at the same time you're using that money. Obviously, you are in control of the transaction too. Let's say you are being an honest banker and something happens that month. Maybe you need to go take care of your mother. And you need to support her. You need to support the kids right now. Maybe they're struggling. They need some help with rent money. My case, I remember living at my Pelican Bay house. It was my first house I ever purchased moving down to Florida. And my microwave and my refrigerator went out in the same week. Okay, that was fun. And I couldn't afford to pay myself back into the policy that month because I had to go and buy myself new appliances. But it was okay that I didn't pay myself back because I'm in debt to myself. It's not like I'm in debt to the banker who's going to come and tow my car off my driveway if I don't pay them back. I'm in debt to myself, so I'm in control of that transaction. And Hannah's not going to call Hannah up over the phone and say, "Hey, girl, where's your loan payment back this month?" I'm not going to do that, right? So hopefully this was helpful just to understand the underlying mechanics of why this is all happening. And honestly, y'all, in Denver, this is what I'm really going to get into as well. I've been working on some material that I just want to start day one off with, which is don't come back, coffee and attack, don't come back. But I really want to start the day off with the mechanics underneath the policies and how and why they operate the way that they do. Because a big statement I get a lot is, Hannah, I don't really care about my death benefit. I just care about having high immediate cash value. And it's like, guys, if you really understood how the death benefit plays into why we have cash value, you wouldn't be making those sort of comments. But I get it, because it's different. It's something new, right? And we're talking about all of this cash value and the banking aspect of it. And I take part blame into this, and we really neglect that death benefit aspect of it as well, right? So I'm really, for a lot of my analyticals, you're really, really, really going to enjoy the first presentation on day one in Denver. So I hope to see y'all out there. Seriously. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not going to do another one in 2026. Yo girl is going to go hit the road, go live in her van for a little bit, and create online content just for a little bit, kind of just take a little debrief and chill out and go do some stuff that I want to do and go see the country and explore these different places of where I want to go. But that's going to be a really, really good presentation. So I do encourage y'all to be there. There's the mastermind, Money Multiplier Mastermind. Excuse me, can I talk? themoneymultiplier.com/mastermind 2025. And then reminder, if you use the code Labor Day for the next 2 days, it gives you 15% off as well. So let me look over what else I want to talk about. We talked about the segregated checking account, why we have that. Yeah, you know, we can get into that as well. I'm just looking at my notes here. I think I may want to save that for next week. You know, talking about like setting up foundations and trust structures and how the trust plays into legacy and generational wealth with a policy. But let's just hit quickly on our term rider for a second, okay? This is something else that I'm going to be covering in day 1 on the mastermind. A term rider is sometimes necessary in your policy to not allow us to hit our MEC limits. I've been going into some deep conversations actually with one of my clients, and Uni, if you're on listening, hey girl, I'm talking about you. But I've been going into some deep conversations about the term rider, and I really want y'all to understand the pros and cons of term riders on your life insurance policy. Because honestly, if I don't need to have a term rider on my policy, I'm not going to add it 9 times out of 10. But if I need it, maybe if I'm going to do like a big dump into my policy year 1, I'm going to need that term rider to support my MEC limits so I don't hit my tax consequences in the policy. So there's pros to it, because actually what you could do is have this term rider be on your policy even if you don't need it, but it increases your MEC limits. So if you're the type of individual, let's say that you create a lot of bonus money from work. Actually, one example, I have a gentleman, he's a bartender out in Vegas, and he gets a set paid salary, but then he also gets tip money. And he's like, Hannah, I have this tip money and I'm creating anywhere from $5 to $8 grand a month just in tip money being a bartender in Vegas. I'm like, crap, I should have done that instead of waitressing at Cracker Barrel. But he's like, hey, I know that I want to take this extra money that I have and dump it into my policy, but I don't want to commit to that high of a premium. I have other thoughts I'm thinking of right now too, but stay on course, Hannah. ADD brain, stay on course. So he actually designed his policy so that it would accommodate subsequent year dump-ins. So when he has that extra $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year, he has a place to warehouse that windfall inside of his policy. And it's only done by this term rider that you can add on to the policy to support the MEC limits. So just a little showcase. I think that's what I'll get into next week. And I will show some visuals of like pros and cons and just kind of my opinion. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, y'all, there is no right or wrong way to conduct your own banking system. Everybody is different. Everybody's got different goals. Everybody's in different financial situations, and there's no one correct way. So that's why I encourage, hop on the phone with a money mentor here at the Money Multiplier. You don't got to do it with us, but at least just work with somebody who is a certified infinite banking practitioner through the Nelson Nash Institute, so they can really support you as you're walking down this journey. This is their niche. This is exactly what they're doing day in and day out. And you're not just going to your State Farm life insurance agent that's like, hey, why are you doing that? If you want to do that, you should just buy an IUL policy. Shut up. Okay, sorry. Now I'm going on a tangent. All right. Before I leave, Dexter's asked me some questions. That website again, you previewed, please can someone help me with that? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Hey, it's over here. It's on Bankrate. I wonder if I can put this in the comments. Yeah, there we go. That's my first ever comment I posted. So, Dexter, that's the Bankrate loan calculator. to get to that screen you had without applying for a loan. Oh, you're probably just maybe getting some pop-up ads then. But no, man, so this is the loan calculator that I use all the time. And if you need support, you know who to call. Ghostbusters. Just kidding, just kidding. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate you. That's all that I really have for today. I think next week we are going to get into numbers. Okay, I'm a numbers nerd. All right, I grew up around this stuff. You know, when I started this whole journey, I was on the applications team. It was my dad who started teaching me how to do policy illustrations, which led me down a whole rabbit hole of doing illustrations with different companies and how one company is different than the other. And it's just, you know, it really comes from experience. You know what I mean? Oh, good. Dexter says Jerome is my dude. I call him all the time. Yeah, Jerome's a good guy. Jerome's on our implementation team. So today I'm going to be at an event all day. So call me, text me, email me. All right. I'm just going to be an attendee, listening to all of my real estate professional friends talk. Because let me tell you, I really am getting into, or would like to get into, short-term rentals, possibly assisted living really interests me as well. The goal for myself, and I'm going to tell all of y'all so you guys can hold me accountable, but I really need to start strategizing a lot of this tax crap that I have. You know, I love private lending, and you know, it creates the passive income streams, but yeah, private lending does not help us on the tax situation side. So I'm getting deeper into, you know, possibly having specific trust structures set up into play that can minimize that tax liability. Looking into, you know, the depreciation from these real estate ventures that I could be doing. And why I just haven't done it already is just because I've just been deep into traveling and teaching infinite banking full time, that, you know, now I'm to a place where I got my people in place, you know, that I can expand out and do that. And for a lot of y'all who are asking how my dad's been doing, that's what dad's been up to. Dad's been out there really managing a lot of his rental portfolios. He's actually at Lake of the Ozarks right now with mama, and I'm going to go see them on Monday. So I'm here in Chicago. On Saturday, I'm flying out to St. Louis. I have 2 TV interviews in St. Louis. So I'm going to get that done on Monday. And then dad is actually going to pick me up in the 206 airplanes. We have a little high wing. It's a 6-seater 206. And he's going to fly it over from Camdenton, Missouri. So right, Lake of the Ozarks area. He's going to pick me up in St. Louis and then fly me back. And I'm going to spend next week with mom and dad, because it's going to be my mama's birthday on Tuesday. And then actually, as I'm saying this, today is my father's birthday. Okay, Hannah needs to call her dad. FYI, everybody, it's Brent Kesler's birthday today. Please go show him some love. It is September 4th. So we'll go see them and hang out with them next week. So that is all that I have. Thank you for tuning in for another episode, and leave a comment down below. Send me an email. Okay, if you got questions or you just want to talk specifically one-on-one about your situation, what you have going on. So it's hannah@themoneymultiplier.com. And then also you can check me out on my website, which I'm kind of proud about. I've been putting this together for some time now. But if you go to hannahkesler.com, Hannah spelled the same ways forwards and backwards, Kesler with 1 S, you can see my adventures, what I'm up to over there. And without further ado, I will see all of y'all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Mwah! Bye, everybody.